The city was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets under the midnight sky. A dense fog hung low, swallowing the neon lights and distant sounds. Street lamps flickered, casting an eerie glow on the deserted streets. Amir, a seasoned taxi driver, gripped the steering wheel. He felt the city's loneliness seep into his bones. It was a night for bad dreams and worse realities. His radio crackled with static, the silence broken only by the rhythmic swoosh of his windshield wipers battling the relentless fog. He was about to call it a night when a figure emerged from the mist. A woman stood on the curb, her silhouette barely visible. She raised a gloved hand, a silent plea for a ride. Amir hesitated, a shiver running down his spine. He couldn't explain it, but something about her felt wrong. He told himself it was just the night playing tricks on him. He needed the fare. He pulled over. The woman slid into the back seat, bringing with her a chill that seemed to pierce the car's warmth. She wore a long, dark coat that hid her like a shroud. Her face remained obscured, buried in the shadows. "Where to?" Amir asked, his voice tight. The woman's voice was a hushed whisper, barely audible above the hum of the engine. "Downtown," she breathed. Her voice was cold, empty. It sent another shiver down Amir's spine. He pulled away from the curb, the tires hissing on the slick asphalt. He glanced at his rearview mirror. The woman's face was still hidden. He could only see the faint outline of her jaw, pale and unnaturally still. Amir tried to break the silence, to fill the unsettling quiet that had settled over the car like a suffocating blanket. "Long night?" he asked, forcing a casual tone. The woman didn't answer. She remained motionless, her presence a heavy weight in the confined space. The air grew colder, biting at Amir's exposed skin. He turned up the heater, but it did little to dispel the growing chill. He felt a prickling sensation on the back of his neck, a feeling of being watched. He snuck another glance at the rearview mirror. The woman hadn't moved. Her face, still shrouded in shadow, seemed to be getting closer. He blinked, his heart pounding in his chest. The city lights outside blurred into streaks of color as Amir's anxiety grew. The fog seemed to press against the windows, a living entity trying to force its way in. The woman's silence was unnerving. She was a phantom, a figment of darkness given form. Amir's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He wanted to tell her to get out, to abandon the fare and run, but something held him back. Fear, perhaps, or a morbid curiosity that he couldn't shake. As they drove deeper into the city, the noises of the outside world faded completely. The only sounds were the low hum of the engine and the soft whisper of the heater fan, or so Amir thought. He started hearing things. Whispers, faint and indistinct, seemed to slither from the back seat. They were like cobwebs clinging to the edges of his awareness. He tried to ignore them, but they grew louder, more insistent. "Did you hear that?" Amir asked, his voice strained. "Hear what?" The woman finally spoke. Her voice was still a whisper, but it cut through the whispers, sharp and cold. "Nothing," Amir mumbled, his heart racing. He told himself it was just his imagination, a trick of the night and his growing fear. But deep down he knew better. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The whispers continued, weaving their way into his thoughts, planting seeds of unease. They spoke of shadows and secrets, of things best left undisturbed. Amir's grip on the steering wheel tightened. He felt a cold sweat prickling his skin. The ride couldn't end soon enough. Amir's gaze darted nervously between the road and the rearview mirror. Each time he looked at the mirror, he felt a surge of terror. The reflection staring back at him wasn't the woman in the back seat. It was something else, something grotesque and inhuman. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light. Its teeth were bared in a silent snarl. He blinked, and the image was gone, replaced once again by the woman's shadowy form. He tried to rationalize it away. Fatigue, stress, the tricks his mind was playing. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was trapped in a nightmare, a passenger in his own personal twilight zone. The woman in his backseat was not what she seemed. She was something sinister, something that defied explanation. He could feel her gaze on him, cold and calculating. He was a fly caught in her web, and she was enjoying his terror. Amir slammed on the brakes, his nerves shot. "Get out!" he yelled, his voice cracking with fear. The woman didn't move. She simply stared at him, her face still hidden in the shadows of her hood, and then she smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was a chilling, predatory grin that sent shivers down Amir's spine. "This is as far as I go," she whispered. And then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she was gone, vanished into thin air. Amir was left alone in the car, his heart pounding against his ribs. He could still feel her presence, cold and menacing. From that night on, Amir was never truly alone. Every time he looked in the rearview mirror, he saw her reflection. The woman in the dark coat, her face forever shrouded in shadow. Her eyes, glowing with an eerie light, followed his every move. And every night as he drove the desolate city streets, he heard her whisper, a single, chilling question that echoed in the silence of his car. "Where are we going?" she would ask, and Amir, trapped in his own personal hell, would drive on, forever haunted by the passenger who would never leave.